Hello, students. Welcome. Today, we're going to start a very fascinating journey. We're going to understand what happens to the food we eat. This is, as you know, a very key topic in your life processes chapter. So, let's begin with a simple question that I'm sure you have all thought about at some point. Where does our food actually go after we eat it? And how does our body use it to give us energy? Well, in today's explainer, we're going to start finding the answers. You see, this whole process, it has a scientific name. It's called holozoic nutrition, and it involves 5 important steps. First is ingestion. That's just the simple act of taking food in. Then comes digestion, which is breaking the food down. After that, absorption of all the useful things, followed by assimilation, where our body actually uses those things. And finally, egestion, getting rid of the waste. Now, this entire journey of our food, it happens inside a very special pathway in our body called the alimentary canal. I want you to just picture it, like one long, continuous tube that starts at your mouth and ends at the anus. Everything we are going to discuss happens inside this tube. Okay, so let's get started. The very first stop on this journey is, of course, the mouth. This is where it all begins. The moment food enters our mouth, 2 very crucial things start happening at the same time. First, we have what we call mechanical digestion. Your teeth do this job, cutting, tearing, and grinding the food into much smaller pieces. But at the exact same time, chemical digestion also begins, all thanks to the saliva in our mouth. Now, this is very important to understand. Saliva is not just water. It contains a special chemical, an enzyme, called salivary amylase. So if you're eating something like rice or a piece of chapati, which has starch, this enzyme starts to break down that complex starch right there in your mouth into simpler sugars. So the digestion of carbohydrates actually starts the second you take a bite. All right, let's move on to the next major station. After we swallow, the food goes down the food pipe or esophagus and enters the stomach. And here, the chemical action becomes much, much more intense. As soon as the food reaches the stomach, its walls, which are lined with special gastric glands, get to work. They begin to secrete a very powerful chemical mixture, which we call gastric juice. Now, this gastric juice is not just one thing. It has 3 main components, and each has a very specific job to do. First, we have hydrochloric acid, or HCl. Then there's an enzyme called pepsin, and finally, something called mucus. Let's look at why each one is so absolutely critical. And here's something you can connect with from your daily life. You know that uncomfortable, burning feeling we sometimes get in our chest? We call it acidity. Well, that is caused by this very same hydrochloric acid. It's essential for digestion, but sometimes it can cause problems. This brings us to a very logical question, doesn't it? If this acid is so strong that it can kill germs, then why doesn't it damage the walls of the stomach itself? How does our stomach stay safe? The answer to that question is our third component, mucus. You see, the inner walls of the stomach are coated with a thick, protective layer of mucus. This mucus acts like a shield, making sure the strong acid and enzymes never even touch the stomach wall. It's a fantastic natural protection system. So just think about it. The food has been chewed in the mouth, and it's been mixed with all these strong chemicals in the stomach. By now, it says semi-liquid paste. So you might think, is the job done? Is the digestion complete? And the answer is not at all. In fact, the most crucial and the most complex part of digestion is just about to start. In our next explainer, we will see what happens when the food leaves the stomach and enters the small intestine. That is where most of the magic really happens. We'll see you then.